My name is Lily Anderson. I am 25 years old, and when I was 8, my mother tested how long I could survive alone. She didn't call it cruelty. She called it a lesson. That day shaped my entire life, and she never expected how it would end. I remember the smell of gasoline before I remember the fear. We were driving back from my aunt's house late in the evening. The sky was turning orange, and I was sitting in the back seat, holding a small stuffed bear with one ear missing. My mom was unusually quiet. Her hands were tight on the steering wheel, her jaw clenched the way it always was when she was angry, but pretending she wasn't. We pulled into a gas station on the edge of town. It wasn't busy. Just a few cars, flickering lights, and a small shop that looked old and tired. "Stay here," she said. I nodded. I always nodded. Saying no was never an option. She got out, walked around the car, and opened my door. "Actually," she said, her voice calm but cold, "get out." I looked at her, confused. "Why?" She smiled slightly. Not a warm smile. A sharp one. "I want to see if you can find your way home." I thought she was joking. Then she closed the door. I watched her walk back to the driver's seat. I waited for her to laugh. To say, "Just kidding." Instead, the engine started. The car pulled away. I stood there, frozen, as her car disappeared down the road. I was 8 years old. Alone. With no phone. No money. No idea what to do. At first, I didn't cry. I kept telling myself she'd come back. She always scared me when she was mad, but this felt different. Time passed. 10 minutes. Then 20. People came and went. No one noticed me standing near the edge of the lot, clutching my bear like it could protect me. When the sky got darker, the fear finally hit. My chest felt tight. My legs started shaking. I walked into the gas station and stood near the counter, too scared to speak. The cashier noticed me eventually. "Where are your parents?" he asked. I didn't know how to answer that. He called the police. That night, I sat in the back of a police car wrapped in a thin blanket, staring out the window, waiting for my mom to show up, angry and embarrassed. When she finally arrived, she wasn't apologetic. She laughed. "There she is," she said. "See? She survived." The officer didn't laugh. He looked at her with something between anger and disbelief. My mom brushed it off. "She needs to learn independence early." That sentence followed me my entire life. After that night, nothing was ever the same. My mom became stricter, colder. She often reminded me how weak I had been that day. "You cried," she'd say. "You embarrassed me. You should have done better." I learned quickly that being quiet was safer than being honest. I stopped asking for help. I stopped trusting comfort. If I was hungry, I waited. If I was scared, I stayed silent. Love in our house was conditional. Approval had to be earned. At school, teachers said I was mature for my age. What they didn't know was that I had no choice. As I grew older, my mom liked to retell the gas station story, like it was a funny memory. "Remember when I left you?" She'd laugh in front of people. Best lesson I ever taught her. Everyone laughed. I didn't. When I was 16, I tried to talk to her about it. I told her it still scared me. She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic," she said. "You're alive, aren't you?" That was the moment I realized something important. She didn't feel guilty. She felt proud. I moved out as soon as I could. I worked part-time jobs. I paid my own bills. I never asked her for help, even when I needed it. Depending on her felt dangerous. To the outside world, she was a strong single mother. To me, she was someone I survived. Years passed. I built a quiet, stable life. I thought the gas station was just a memory, something painful but finished. I was wrong. When I was 24, my mom invited me to dinner. She said she wanted to talk about the past. I hesitated but agreed. Some small part of me still wanted closure. Over dinner, she smiled and said, "You know, leaving you there was the best thing I ever did. It toughened you up." I felt that old fear rise again, but this time, it didn't control me. I looked at her and said calmly, "It didn't teach me strength. You taught me abandonment." Her smile faded. "You tested a child's survival," I continued. And I passed. But not because of you. In spite of you. She stared at me, stunned. That was the first time I saw it, confusion. Not regret. Confusion. Because she had always believed she owned the narrative. She didn't know that I had started asking questions. That I had looked into records. That I had spoken to relatives she had cut off. She didn't know that the truth was already unraveling. And she definitely didn't know that her test had consequences she could never undo. Because surviving that gas station wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of hers falling apart. After that dinner, I didn't sleep for 2 nights. Not because I was scared of my mother, but because something inside me had finally woken up. For the first time, I wasn't replaying the gas station memory as a helpless child. I was looking at it as an adult, and the more I thought about it, the more wrong everything felt. I started asking myself questions I had never allowed before. Why did the police let her take me home so easily? Why was there no follow-up? Why did no one ever check on me after that night? I contacted the local police department where it happened. I didn't tell my mom. I told them I was requesting records related to a childhood incident involving abandonment. I didn't expect much. I assumed everything had been buried or lost. But it hadn't. There was a file. It wasn't thick, but it was real. It described an 8-year-old girl left alone at a gas station after dark. It described a mother who admitted to leaving her child to teach independence. It described an officer who strongly recommended a welfare check and a child services report. That report was never completed. My hands were shaking as I read that line. Someone had stopped it. The next few weeks were quiet on the outside, loud inside my head. I started reaching out to relatives I hadn't seen in years, people my mom had slowly pushed away. My aunt, a cousin, even my grandmother's old friend. The pattern was clear. My mom had always controlled the story. My aunt told me something that changed everything. She said that after the gas station incident, she had tried to intervene. She had called child services herself. But my mom had connections. A friend who worked in local administration. Someone who handled it. She convinced everyone you were exaggerating, my aunt said softly. She said you were dramatic. That you liked attention. That sentence hit me harder than anything else that I had spent my whole childhood believing I was weak. But I wasn't weak. I was silenced. I began to understand that the gas station wasn't a single moment of cruelty. It was the foundation of a system where fear kept me obedient, where shame kept me quiet, where my mother stayed powerful by making sure I never trusted my own memories. Once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. I went no contact for a while. No calls. No texts. She didn't like that. She started showing up at my workplace, leaving voicemails that sounded concerned to outsiders but felt threatening to me. "You're being dramatic again," she said in one message. "You always do this." I saved everything. Around that time, I was offered a promotion at work. It wasn't flashy, but it meant stability, independence. Something I had built without her. I realized something important. My mother hated that I no longer needed her. Control had always been her currency. Then she made a mistake. She posted about the gas station